Jean-Roch Coignet's Memoirs offer a vivid account of his life as a soldier under Napoleon Bonaparte. The French army is leaving Moscow. At 3, we left Moscow. Advancing was impossible. The road was clogged with carriages, and all the army pillagers had plenty. 3 leagues from Moscow, an explosion was heard. The shock was so terrible the ground moved under our feet. It is said 60 powder barrels were under the Kremlin, with 7 powder trails and fireworks planted on the barrels. Our 700 captured torch-wielders met their fate. They were all galley slaves. The road was lined with carriages for 12 leagues. Reaching our first stop, I had enough of the carriage. I put all our provisions on our horses and burned the vehicle. Then we could pass everywhere. With immense effort, we rejoined headquarters beyond Mozhaisk. The next day, the Emperor crossed the Moskva battlefield, lamenting the still unburied corpses. On October 31st, at 4 in the afternoon, he reached Vyazma. The Russian winter began harshly on November 6th. The Emperor made small stages with his guard, following his carriage on foot with a ferule stick, while we stayed on the roadsides with cavalry officers. All downcast, we reached Smolensk on November 9th. The stages were grueling, horses died of hunger and cold, and when we found cottages, they devoured thatch. The cold was already severe, 17 degrees below zero. This caused significant army losses. Smolensk and surroundings overflowed with corpses. I took all precautions for my survival. Our horses fell on the ice. Near a bivouac, I grabbed 2 axes, knocked off my horse's shoes, and they stopped slipping. I got a small pot for tea. Reaching the Emperor's stop, I made a huge fire to thaw my general and put the pot on to melt snow. What bad water! Snow melted in smoke. When boiling, I added tea, broke sugar, and used fine cups. We had tea daily. Until Vilna, I had friends. They followed my pot, and I had 10 fine sugar loaves. 3 captains stayed until death, meaning I was left alone. I followed my general, always near the Old Guard and the Emperor. When the Russians attacked, we had to concentrate tightly. Daily, Cossacks raided the road, but as long as there were weapons in the ranks, they did not approach, just watched from the sides. We left Smolensk with the Emperor on November 14th. The Russians closed in on the 22nd. He learned the Cossacks seized Borisov's bridgehead, forcing a crossing at Berezina. We passed the main bridge, half burned by Russians. They awaited us across, in woods and snow. Without exchanging fire, we were already suffering. At 1 in the afternoon, November 26th, the right bridge was finished, and the Emperor immediately sent the Duke of Reggio's corps and Marshal Ney with cuirassiers. The Guard's artillery crossed with these corps, traversing a fortunately frozen marsh. They repelled the Russians left in the woods, giving the army time to cross on the 27th. The Emperor crossed Berezina at 1 in the afternoon and established headquarters in a hamlet. The river crossing continued the night of November 27-28. The Emperor called Marshal Davout, and I was appointed to guard the bridgehead, allowing only artillery and munitions, the Marshal on the right and I on the left. When all material passed, the Marshal said, "Let's go, my brave, everything is through. Let's join the Emperor." We crossed the bridge and frozen marsh, which supported our material, or all was lost. During our arduous duty, Marshal Ney fought Russians trying to cut us off, surprising them in the woods, costing them dearly. Our brave cuirassiers returned covered in blood. It was pitiful. We reached a fine plateau. The Emperor reviewed the prisoners. Snow fell so thickly everyone was covered, unseen. Behind us, a dreadful scene unfolded. Leaving the bridge, Russians fired batteries at the crowd around the bridges, overturning carts and drowning all in ice. No one can imagine such a sight. The bridges burned at 8:30 the next day. After reviewing prisoners, the Emperor called me. "Go immediately. Carry these orders to Vilna's route. Here is a reliable guide. Do all you can to arrive by dawn." He had my guide questioned, rewarded before me, and we were given good Russian horses. I left on a beautiful snowy road. Our horses did not slip. In the night, in a wood, I tied a strong string around my guide's neck for safety. He said, "Back, tack," meaning good. I finally arrived safely, no mishap. Dismounting, my guide introduced me to the mayor, who took our horses to the barn. I gave him my dispatches. He offered schnapps, drinking first. "Drink," he said in French. Opening my packet, he said, "It is impossible to prepare the immense rations your sovereign demands 3 leagues from here. It is my district, but it would take a month. That is not my concern." "Very well," he said, "I will do my best." But he could say no more. The one who led my horse to the barn shouted, "Cossacks! Cossacks!" I saw myself caught. The brave mayor pushed me out of his office, into the antechamber, turned right, grabbed my shoulders, and pushed me into the oven. I had no time to think. This oven, level with the ground, vaulted, was high and long. It had been lit, but was not too hot, bearable. I had no time to turn. I knelt, waiting anxiously. The good mayor took wood, hiding the oven entrance. Soon officers appeared before the mayor, passing the oven mouth where I awaited my fate. Minutes felt like centuries. My hair stood on end, believing myself doomed. Time drags when one thinks. Finally, I heard the officers leave, passing my refuge. A deadly shiver ran through me, thinking I was lost, but Providence watched over me. They took my dispatches and left to intercept our army. I later learned the Emperor sacrificed me to mislead the enemy. The kind mayor came. "Come out," he said. "The Russians left with your dispatches, going to intercept your army. Your route is clear." Leaving the oven, I embraced the generous man, saying, "I will tell my sovereign of your deed." After schnapps, he gave me bread for my pocket. My horse was ready. I left at a gallop, rushing for a league, finally slowing, fearing my horse might falter. I left my guide in the village. Reaching our scouts, what joy, I cried, make way," and ate my bread piece. The army marched silently. Horses slipped, roads flattened by troops. Cold grew harsher. Finally, I met the Emperor and his staff, approaching hat in hand. "How are you? Your mission?" "It is done, sire." "What? You're not captured? Your dispatches? In the Cossacks' hands. What? Come closer, what do you say?" "The truth. Arriving at the mayor's, I gave my dispatches, and soon after, the Cossacks arrived, and the mayor hid me in his oven." "In his oven?" "Yes, sire, it was not comfortable. They passed by to the mayor's office, took my dispatches, and left." "Curious old grognard. You should have been captured. The brave mayor saved me. I will see this Russian." He told my story to his generals. "Mark him for 8 days' rest and double pay." I rejoined General Monthion, finding my horses and sugar. I was starving. That evening, near where my dispatches were taken by Cossacks, he called the mayor, who led him a league from his village. Passing, I shook his hand. "I love the French," he said. "Farewell, brave officer." I still bless the man who saved my life. Cold grew harsher. Horses died in bivouacs from hunger and cold. Each day some remained where we slept. Roads were like mirrors. Horses fell, unable to rise. Soldiers, exhausted, could no longer carry their weapons. Frost stuck muskets to their hands. It was 28 degrees below zero. But the guard only left their muskets with death. To survive, horses fallen on the ice were used. Soldiers cut the thighs for steaks, roasting them on coals if there was fire, otherwise eating raw. They gorged on the horse before it died. I did the same while horses lasted. Until Vilna, we made small stages with the Emperor. His staff marched beside the road. The demoralized army marched like prisoners, without weapons or packs. No discipline, no humanity among them. Each marched for themselves. Humanity's feeling was extinguished. No one would extend a hand to their father, and it is understandable. One who bent to help another could not rise. One had to march straight, grimacing to keep the nose and ears from freezing. Sensibility and humanity were dead. No one murmured against adversity. Men fell stiff on the road. If a bivouac of thawing unfortunates was found, the new arrivals pitilessly threw them aside, taking their fire. Those wretches lay on the snow. Such horrors must be seen to be believed. I can attest Moscow's retreat stretched over 40 leagues of road without packs or muskets. In Vilna, we suffered most. The cold was unbearable. Men could no longer endure it. Crows froze. In that harsh time, I was sent to the general in charge of Moscow's trophies to throw them into a lake right of our route. Simultaneously, the treasure was given to stragglers. They seized it, breaking the barrels. 3/4 froze near their plunder. Their loads were so heavy they fell. I barely rejoined my post thanks to my unshod horse. Weak men could not carry 500 francs. I had 700 francs saved in my portmanteau. My horse lay down too weak. I realized and took the sack, going to my old grognard's bivouac, proposing to rid my 700 francs. Give me 20 francs in gold, I will give you 25. All gladly did, and I was free, or I would have left them. My fortune was 83 Napoleons, saving my life. In Smorgony, the Emperor bid farewell before leaving the army, accompanied by Generals Duroc, Mouton, and Caulaincourt at 7 in the evening. We remained under the King of Naples, disconcerted, for he was the first soldier to strike or brave danger, but one could blame him for our cavalry's demise. He dragged divisions on the roads, always at his disposal, and always too many to chase Cossacks. But all this cavalry died of want, and at night these wretches could not forage. The King of Naples had 20 to 30 relay horses, starting each morning fresh. Thus he was Europe's finest cavalryman, but without foresight, as being an intrepid soldier is not enough. Resources must be managed. He lost us, I heard Marshal Davout say, 40,000 horses by his fault. One is always wrong to blame chiefs, but the Emperor could have chosen better. At our head were 2 glory rivals, Marshal Ney and Prince Eugene, saving us from great perils by their calm and courage. The King of Naples moved to Vilna, arriving on December 8th, and we on the 10th, with the Guard. We reached Vilna's barricaded gates at night. Immense effort was needed to enter. I was with my comrade in a well-heated college, finding my general for orders. Be ready at 4 in the morning to leave, for the enemy is on the heights and will bombard at dawn. Waste no time. Returning to my quarters, I prepared to leave, waking my comrade, who did not listen. He was thawed and preferred staying. At 3, I said, "Let's go." "No," he said, "I stay. I will kill you if you don't follow." "Well, kill me." Drawing my sabre, I struck hard, forcing him to follow. I loved this brave comrade, not wanting to leave him to the enemy. We left as the Russians breached the Vitebsk gate. We barely escaped. Horrors were committed in the city, with sleeping unfortunates slaughtered, streets filled with French corpses. Jews were our soldiers' executioners. Luckily, the intrepid Ney stopped the chaos. Russian army wings flanked the city, watching us pass. A few shots held them, but it was complete rout. Reaching Vilna's mountain, chaos peaked. All army material and the Emperor's carriages stayed below. Soldiers took plateware. All chests and barrels were smashed. Such plunder remained. No, one cannot imagine such a scene. We marched on Kono, reached by the King of Naples on December 11th at midnight. He left on the 13th at 5 in the morning, heading to Gumbinnen with the Guard. Despite Marshal Ney's and General Gerard's efforts, Kauno soon fell to the Russians. Urgent retreat was necessary. Marshal Ney did so at 9 in the evening after destroying all remaining artillery, supplies, and burning the bridges. The French withdrew to the Oder, and after evacuating Berlin, took position on the Elbe under Prince Eugene, as Murat left command on January 8, 1813, to return to his states. Marshal Ney deserves praise for holding the enemy at Kono by his bravery. I saw him take a rifle with 5 men and face the enemy. The homeland owes gratitude to such men. We were fortunate under Prince Eugene, who worked tirelessly to gather our remnants. In Königsberg, We found Prussian sentinels insulting our weaponless soldiers. All doors closed to them. They died on the pavements from cold and hunger. I and my 2 comrades went to the town hall. No one could approach. I showed my decoration and epaulets, allowed entry through the window. Given 3 lodging tickets, we went to the best. We were observed silently. They were dining. Seeing their calm, I offered 20 francs. "Feed us. We will pay 20 francs daily." "Enough," said the host. "A stove will be lit in this room with straw and sheets." We were served soup immediately and given food for 30 francs daily, not counting coffee, 1 franc each. This Prussian kindly housed our horses, feeding them. The poor beasts had not had hay or oats since Vilna. How happy they were to chew a hay bale, and we, happy to sleep on straw in a warm room. I immediately called a doctor and a shoemaker for my frost-bitten left foot. The doctor advised a fur-lined boot, leaving my foot in the boot after splitting it for treatment. "Make the boot tonight. I pay 20 francs. Tomorrow at 8, you will have it." I kept my boots. Next morning, doctor and shoemaker arrived. The latter split my boot, revealing a newborn's foot. No nails, no skin, but perfect. "You are saved," said the doctor. He called the host and his wife. "Come see," he said, "a chicken foot. I need fine linen to wrap it." They kindly provided fine white linen. My foot was rebandaged in the laced boot. I asked, "How much?" "I am paid," he said. "This service is unpaid. But no buts, please." I shook his hand. "I will give you a cure," he added. "Your foot will be sensitive to cold and heat. Keep it covered, but if you reach strawberry season, mash 2 to 3 pounds in a dish and make a compress around your foot. Continue through the season, and you will feel no pain." "Thank you, doctor." "And you, shoemaker, here are 20 francs. "Not at all," he said. "Just my costs." "How much?" 10 francs. You 2 agreed. My comrades suggested, "Let's have a rum punch." "No, time is precious. We return. Farewell, brave Frenchmen." I followed the doctor's advice, never feeling pain. It cost 12 francs in strawberries. I went to the palace for Count Montillon's orders, finding Prince Eugene and Prince Berthier. Count Montillon told the war minister, "I need aide-de-camp Contant, and replace him with Lieutenant Coignet. He is a good servant. I need him to clear army impediments." The minister immediately made me aide-de-camp on December 28, 1812. I feared not passing to the line, but was reserved dangerous missions. We stayed in Königsberg to gather the army's remnants into a small corps. We marched on Berlin, quickly evacuated for Magdeburg. There, the army gained some strength. I was ordered to make tin plaques with coats of arms for those allowed to keep carriages, their names and ranks on the plaques with their march order. These plaques cost 3 francs. The viceroy was not exempt. I barely had time to place all my plaques before leaving. Those without would be burned. I thought, I will clear the army well. On the Elbe, Prince Eugene gathered the army in a fine position. He foresaw everything, care and attention for his army, nothing lacked. He never slept. Supplies were distributed at night. He oversaw everything, going to the outposts every 3 days to scout the enemy and greet them with 8 cannons, 15,000, 16,000 infantry, and 700, 800 cavalry. After a skirmish, he commanded the retreat, always last, never leaving a soldier behind. Always gracious. What a fine soldier on the field of honour. He held for 3 months without losing ground. One day, I received this letter. Mr. Coignet, I send an issue of the Moniteur with the Emperor's orders for army equipment. The Viceroy will issue a daily order, but until then, notify those without carriages that on the 15th they will be burned. Signed, General of Division, Chief of Staff of the Major General, Count Montillon. I went to my general, saying, Here is a severe order, General. I will clear the army of its hindrances. No mercy. I will give gendarmes. Burn all unmarked carriages. I have those army pillagers. I will reclaim their stolen horses for our artillery. You command. This mission will be stormy for me. I am here to support you. Complaints? I will hear them. Leave their pack horses. The rest to artillery. Go. The prince counts on you. This concludes the 11th part of the story. Thank you very much for listening. Please consider subscribing for more episodes.